Everybody want, just like C. Freeman L was saying in the thing, you know, in the Noble Joe Ali DVD, that people pass this man straight, looking for Jesus. People who were alive during, like, between 1913 and 1929. People who were alive chose to be NAACP and all these other organizations. Some of them chose to be NAACP and the Moore Science Temple because they just looked at it as some group that they're joining. But it was way bigger than that. And that's why the prophet said, the fourth and fifth generations are the ones who's going to benefit from this. I never came here for these Negroes right here. These guys are going to try to kill me. Like, I'm not here for these guys. You know?
Did Marcus Garvey pass the prophet straight?
Marcus Garvey dealt with the prophet directly because that's how he got out of prison in Atlanta, right? It was because Noble Joe Ali went and nationalized him.
He nationalized him?
Yeah. The only way he's gonna get out of prison, the way he got out of prison.
What did he?
You know, they're saying that it's a letter campaign by his wife. This is why he got released from prison, because he had all the support of the Pan-Africans and yeah, right. How come Mumia can't get out yet? Look how much Pan-Africans are writing letters to them guys about he never did it or whatever, and he's still in there. So obviously letter campaigns aren't going to get somebody out of prison, especially somebody like Marcus Garvey, who they wanted to kill anyways because he's waking up his people. You know what I mean? Like, why would they get him out of prison? Why would they let him go? Just because some niggers wrote some letters. Like,
in the first place.
why? There's no need. You know what I mean? So, as far as our position is concerned, right? We have to present Noble Joe Ali in the way that he presented the information. You can't present it based on Islam or Islam. Right? So we talked about this in I think class 1. Oh, and by the way, remind me I have the class 1 DVDs and stuff here. So we can do that at the end. We talked about the changes in the literature, the part and parcel versus part and partial, civic instruction and civic duty opposed to religious duty or religious instruction and religious duty. Moorish Holy Temple of Science, founded 1925, legally incorporated as a civic organization 1926, and Moorish Science Temple of America coming in 1928. And that's what we were talking about from the beginning. So 1928 is when Moorish Science Temple of America was founded, right? When you go into the 101 questionnaire, the 101 questionnaire is going to tell you Moorish Science Temple of America founded 1913, right? But remember, the questionnaires were changed also, and you would know the changing of the questionnaire based on the 1099 form at the back. That's talking about the succession of the temple, right? So the document's called Our Authority, right? It's book 52, page 579. It's filed for record as form number 1099. Religious Affidavit of Organization, State of Illinois, Cook County, 1928, August 1 p.m. 2:52, and recorded in book 521. Moorish Science Temple of America I, Noble Drew Ali, recorder, sounds Jaconowit. Moorish Holy Temple of Science, held at Chicago in the county of Cook and state of Illinois on the 20th day of July 1928. For that purpose and following persons were appointed sheiks according to the rules and usages of such Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Do solemnly swear that at a meeting of the members of Noble Drew Ali, Mili Il, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Foreman Bay, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad to propagate the faith and extend the learning and truth of the great Prophet of Ali in America, to appoint and consecrate missionaries of the Prophet and to establish the faith of Muhammad in America. And said Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name the following Moorish Science Temple of America. And at the said meeting, this affiant acted as presiding officer, subscribed, sworn before the 20th day of July 1928, Noble Drew Ali, Roberta W. Cornwall, Notary Public. See Heard's Revised Statute, Chapter 32, 36. So in the back of the 101 questionnaire, it has our authority saying that the Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name the Moorish Science Temple of America. On other our authorities, it'll say the Moorish Science Temple of America adopted as its corporate name the Moorish Science Temple of America, which was the contradiction. Now why would an organization adopt as its corporate name the same name that it has already? It doesn't make sense, right? So these are some of the things that they did in the literature, changing stuff up so that when you read things, you're getting some crazy perspective that has nothing to do with what Noble Drew Ali brought. It has to do with the Moors who killed the Prophet, and a majority of those Moors were adepts, so they knew about all this stuff already, so they could just go in and change stuff because they knew everything. You know, it's no different than Jesus and the disciples. The disciples are the adept chamber, and Jesus is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And he taught all of the disciples, the 12 disciples, whatever they have to know in order for them to go out there and do whatever has to get done. And then in 1929, all of a sudden, Noble Drew Ali ends up dead after he gets released from prison on some fake charges. He just ends up dead, and then they say, tuberculosis or whatever. So everybody was in it. The man who wrote on the death certificate was in on it. Police who released him into the hands of the Moors that killed him were in on it. Right? Moors who were in the temple that knew about this and didn't do nothing were in on it. No different than in the X movie when the brother came and told him straight, yo, they tried to pay me off to kill you. Just so you know. Right? Like he told them to his face, like, hey, you know what, man? You know these guys paid me to kill you, but I couldn't do it, minister.
And in Ali, they show that too.
Yeah.
Like, they just paid, basically they're out to get them.
Right? One dude came to him and said, hey man, you know what, man? These guys paid me to try to kill you. One person, out of all these people who are following him or whatever, one person like actually said, you know,
That was true.
that was true. Like true that they put it in the movie, right? And nobody didn't argue about it. Nobody in the Nation of Islam came up and said, oh, you know what? You guys can't put that in the movie. But that's not true. In the movie. So it's common knowledge now. Right? Because he was real. So if he was real and they made a movie about him, then majority of the stuff that's in that is real. It's not just a story that they made up so they could make a movie about this guy named Malcolm X. Black history movie. That's actual documentation. That's evidence of the fraud that's been taking place with all our leaders that say they are for the liberation of their people and they're not taking checks. And they'll die for their people and all those type of talks. Right? And it's deep on a level where all this stuff is in the prophet's literature. That Moors are going to come against them, try to kill them. That people are jealous of them, and people are trying to use all types of things to try to discredit him and to make him seem like he's a crazy person, and they're going to tell him that he's a circus magician that went to Egypt and he's coming back to teach people some madness that they're not going to accept anyway because they have Jesus and all that. From 1913. And then a lot of people, like, it's not even like, we didn't hear about this before 2000. And we were into consciousness before 2000. So we were into consciousness before 2000. And we're only now hearing about Noble Drew Ali.
Really?
The majority of us were in some Black Power, kill cracker or whatever during the late 90s.
Yeah, say it loud.
Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud and all that.
Yeah.
And standing up for like black stuff.
Way before that was Marcus Garvey. Way back.
Right.
Way back.
And Martin Luther King too.
Martin Luther King.
Civil rights movement,
All right, so people were conscious before 2000.
Yes.
Oh, so people were conscious like 1960s. People were conscious. Okay,
Can I say
and and people still haven't considered Noble Drew Ali yet.
No.
Sorry, I've been thinking about this. I was thinking about my grandfather. He passed about 3 years ago. And I was saying, how come my grandfather never told me about Noble Drew Ali? I know they heard about Marcus Garvey because we heard about Marcus Garvey. But how come nobody told us about Noble Drew Ali? You see?
Yeah.
And and it's been hitting me.
That's how deep the conspiracy is.
Yeah.
The conspiracy is deep.
Could it be, sorry for interrupting, could it be that,
And sorry, and it's not any interruptions or anything like that.
okay,
It's
no problem.
because we have to teach each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody read some type of book that somebody didn't read. They say, oh yeah, I heard about this, and throw it in, and it's gonna blow it up even more because the conspiracy is that big. You know what I mean? So, I know that, it's just out of respect that you're saying that. I know you want to get involved, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, sorry.
Okay, could it be that the timing of the information as to the level of consciousness of a group of people, it has a factor too in that? Like, I mean, the conspiracy is one thing. Of course, you can try to cover something up, but it eventually is going to surface.
Gonna come up.
But as time goes on, the consciousness levels raise due to the fact that you get over certain things. Because in those movements, right, you have a mentality which is a divisive mentality.
Yeah.
But then when you sort of start getting to, and I've noticed this in experiencing things, when you get over certain humps and getting over certain things, talking about the past, because there's people, this whole society is built on living in the past because they rather do things on paper. But that being said, you get to a point where you reach a conscious level and then the information, or you get led to that information and it opens up. And I'm thinking that possibly that's part of it.
Yeah.
Because I knew about Noble Drew Ali for quite some time.
Yeah.
Because especially, I first found out about him through the Nawabians. Because I was hanging around with the Nawabis. I wasn't into them or moving or anything like that.
Dr. Malachi?
Malachi. So I knew people who were with that. But then he was mentioning him in his literature. And he was talking about his relationship between because he's having a big conflict with the nation.